AITA for exposing my girlfriend's double life over a broken mailbox key. My name is Mason, I'm 32, and I live in Portland, Oregon, in a one-bedroom apartment above a bakery that starts making sourdough at 4 in the morning. I work as a project coordinator for a small construction company, which means half my day is spreadsheets, and the other half is telling grown adults where the permit folder is. For almost 3 years, I was with Marissa, and we were at that weird stage where everyone kept asking when we were moving in together, like it was a customer service ticket we had forgotten to close. My apartment is nothing special, but I liked it. It had narrow stairs that complained under everyone's shoes, old shared mailboxes in the entryway, and windows that looked out over a row of food carts and wet sidewalks. Street parking after 6 was a losing game, but every morning the bakery downstairs smelled like butter and bread, and on rainy nights the place felt warmer than it had any right to. Marissa used to say it was very Mason, that I loved a place with drafty windows and a mailbox older than both of us. She worked as a leasing consultant at a mid-range apartment complex in inner Southeast, one of those renovated industrial buildings with polished concrete floors, glass office doors, fake plants that somehow looked expensive, and a coffee machine in the lobby that made everything taste faintly like burnt almonds. She was good at her job, charming without seeming fake, organized, quick with names. She could make a studio apartment facing a parking lot sound like a fresh start. For most of our relationship, that was what I admired about her. Marissa knew how to make things feel possible. When we started seriously talking about moving in together, she came at it like a project manager. She had notes on her phone, screenshots of floor plans, rent comparisons, utility estimates, and a color-coded list of furniture we needed. I was more cautious. Not because I didn't love her, but because I had lived long enough to know that love and shared Wi-Fi passwords were not the same thing. Still, I wanted it. I wanted to wake up with her on a normal Tuesday. I wanted 2 mugs in the sink, shared grocery lists, arguments about where to put the shoe rack. I wanted the kind of boring future people don't write songs about. Her lease was supposedly ending in late October. Mine was month to month, which made me flexible. She said her building had raised rent too much, and she was tired of living with thin walls and a neighbor who played bass at midnight. We should just do it, she told me one Sunday over brunch, stabbing a roasted potato with her fork. No more half in, half out. I laughed. That sounds like something you say before adopting a dog. Don't tempt me. So we started planning. I paid the deposit on a small storage unit near Powell because she said her place was too cramped to stack boxes. I ordered a gray couch after she sent me the link 3 times and said, "This one actually looks adult." I covered a Venmo request from her labeled moving stuff because she said she had to reserve a freight elevator at her current building. I bought kitchenware, bedding, a reading chair I didn't need but she loved, and 2 lamps that looked simple until I saw the price. I did notice small things that didn't sit right, but I did what I usually did. I made them reasonable in my head. She got protective of her phone, but she said work messages were stressful. She canceled dinner twice, but leasing offices got busy at the end of the month. She stopped leaving clothes at my place, but she said she was trying to pack more efficiently. She asked for my spare building key just while moving things around, and I gave it to her because we were moving in together anyway. That was my weakness. I thought being reasonable meant not making someone defend every little thing. The mailbox key broke on a Thursday. I was at work, standing in a half-finished break room with my phone wedged between my shoulder and ear while a subcontractor told me he had definitely sent an invoice I definitely did not have. Marissa called twice in a row, which she almost never did during the day. When I answered, she sounded irritated before I even said hello. "Your mailbox key snapped." I blinked and stepped away from the noise. "What?" "The key. It broke off in the lock." "Why were you opening my mailbox?" "My package got delivered there by mistake, remember?" I didn't remember, but I also had 3 people waiting on me and a permit issue burning through my inbox. "Okay," I said slowly. "Is the piece stuck in there?" "Yes, Mason. That's usually what happens when a key breaks." I let the tone pass. "I'll call the landlord." "It's just a key, Mason. Don't make it a whole thing." That was the first moment something felt off enough that I couldn't sand it down into nothing. Not because the key broke. The lock was old. Half the building had to jiggle their keys like they were opening a treasure chest. It was her reaction. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't even embarrassed. She sounded mad at me for the inconvenience of being caught near my mailbox. I called my landlord, and maintenance came the next afternoon. By then, Marissa had texted me 3 times about it. Did they fix it yet? Can you check if there's a small brown package? Actually, don't worry. I handled it. That last message sat in my mind longer than it should have. Handled how? The mailbox was still jammed. When maintenance replaced the lock, the guy handed me a new key and a small stack of mail held together with a rubber band. Some of this has been sitting, he said. Lock was worse than we thought. I sorted through it in the entryway, standing under the weak yellow light while rain tapped against the glass door. Bill. Flyer. Wrong apartment. Coupon for a pizza place I didn't like. Then I saw an envelope from Marissa's leasing office. It was addressed to her, but at my apartment. Marissa rarely used my address. She'd had packages sent to my place a few times when she didn't want them sitting in her lobby, but official mail? Never. Her name looked strange next to my unit number, like seeing someone else's shoes beside my bed. I took it upstairs and set it on the kitchen counter. I made coffee I didn't want. I stared at the envelope while the bakery downstairs started prepping for the evening rush, metal trays clattering through the floor. I know how people get about mail. I know opening someone else's envelope is a line. But it had been sent to my address, linked to my building, and her behavior around it had already turned my stomach into a knot. So I opened it carefully. Inside was a packet of move-in paperwork. Not for our future apartment. For a different unit in a different building. It had Marissa's name printed cleanly at the top, along with an expected move-in date 2 weeks away. I read it once and didn't understand it. Then I read it again. Emergency contact, Derek. Previous co-tenant, Mason. I stared at that line, so long the words started to blur. Previous co-tenant. I had never been her co-tenant. We had never shared a lease. I had never signed anything with her. And I had no idea who Derek was. There were other little details that made no sense. Notes about transitioning belongings from temporary storage. A forwarding address section left blank. A line about verifying prior rental history through Mason, former household contact. My phone number was listed underneath. Former household contact. I sat down at my small kitchen table, the one with a scratch across the corner from when I tried to build a bookshelf without enough space. Rain blurred the window. A bus hissed at the stop outside. Everything in my apartment looked exactly the same, which somehow made the paperwork feel more unreal. I texted her a picture of the line with Derek's name. Who is Derek? She called me within 30 seconds. The first thing she said was not. Let me explain. It was, you opened my mail? It came to my address. That doesn't give you the right to dig through my stuff. I looked at the packet on the table. Why is a guy named Derek listed as your emergency contact? She exhaled hard, like I was being difficult on purpose. It's office paperwork. You know how messy those forms get. Derek is a clerical mistake. No, Derek is someone from work. Sort of. He's a client. I don't know. They probably auto-filled something. That's not how emergency contacts work. Mason, I have had the worst week. I can't do this interrogation right now. I leaned back in my chair. My first instinct was to apologize for making her feel cornered. That was the habit. Keep things calm. Give her space. Don't escalate. But the paper was still in front of me. Why am I listed as a previous co-tenant? I asked. She was quiet for half a second too long. Because you're helping me move, she said. I probably used the wrong word when I was filling something out. You work in leasing. Exactly, which means I fill out 100 forms a day, and sometimes my brain is fried. It sounded almost reasonable. That was the problem with Marissa. Her lies didn't arrive wearing costumes. They showed up in comfortable shoes, carrying a latte, acting like you were dramatic for noticing they didn't belong. I want to see the full application, I said. No. Marissa. No, Mason. You don't get to punish me because a stupid envelope went to the wrong place. I'm not punishing you. I'm asking why my address is attached to paperwork I've never seen. And I'm telling you it's not a big deal. Then she softened her voice, which somehow bothered me more. Babe, please. I'm tired. We're both stressed. Can we talk tomorrow like normal people? I said okay because I didn't trust myself to say anything else. After we hung up, I sat there listening to the rain and the bakery's mixer humming below me. The next morning, I saw Gina while I was leaving for work. Gina owned the bakery downstairs. She was 52, with silver in her dark hair and the kind of calm face that made people tell her more than they meant to. She wasn't nosy exactly. She just noticed things. In a building like ours, that made her more reliable than security cameras. She was setting a tray of pastries into the display case when I came down. "New mailbox key working?" she asked. "Yeah, finally." She wiped her hands on her apron. "Good." Marissa seemed annoyed about that. I stopped near the door. "You saw her?" "Couple times this week." I tried to keep my face neutral. "This week?" Gina looked at me for a second, then her expression shifted slightly. Not alarmed, but careful. "Yeah. She came by Tuesday around lunch. Wednesday too, I think. Had some boxes. I figured you two were moving." My fingers tightened around my coffee cup. "Boxes from my apartment." "She came down with them?" "Yes." Gina paused. "There was a man outside once. Navy van. Dog grooming logo on the side." I didn't think anything of it. The bakery suddenly felt too warm. "What did he look like?" "Tall. Beard. Baseball cap." "He didn't come in. Just helped her load." I nodded like that made perfect sense. "Thanks, Gina." She didn't ask me what was going on. She just said, "Mason, you okay?" "Not sure yet." That was the first honest thing I had said all week. I went to work and lasted until 11. I opened the same spreadsheet 6 times without reading it. My manager, Alvarez, found me staring at a delivery schedule like it contained ancient secrets. "You look like you're about to either quit or start labeling things aggressively," he said. "Personal stuff." He nodded once. Alvarez was practical in a way I respected. He did not offer inspirational speeches. He offered solutions and occasionally good tacos. "Need the afternoon?" I hesitated. He lowered his voice. "Don't confuse being nice with being unprotected. Whatever it is, handle it clean." That landed harder than he probably intended. I took the afternoon. The storage unit office sat between an auto glass shop and a place that sold discount flooring. The woman at the desk recognized me because I had come in with Marissa when we rented it. Back then, Marissa had leaned against my shoulder and joked that we were becoming suburban, but without the yard. I asked for the access log. The woman frowned. "You're the primary account holder, right?" "Yes." She printed it without much drama. The log showed Marissa's code had been used 4 times in the last 2 weeks. All during work hours. All on days she told me she was tied up at the office. I walked to the unit with my chest tight. The padlock was still there. Inside, the stacked boxes looked almost normal at first. Then I saw gaps. The 2 lamps were gone. So were the kitchenware boxes, the bedding, and the reading chair she had insisted would look perfect by a window. A sealed box labeled M+M bathroom had been opened and half emptied. The couch wasn't there because it hadn't been delivered yet, but the printed delivery confirmation I had taped to a box was gone. It was such a strange kind of betrayal. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Practical. She had been taking pieces of the life I thought we were building and moving them somewhere else. I sat on an upside-down plastic bin and called my sister. Tessa answered on the 4th ring, breathless. "If this is about Mom's birthday dinner, I already said I'm not making the reservation." "Tess." She went quiet immediately. She's a nurse, and when her voice shifts, you feel it. "What happened?" I told her everything. The mailbox key, the envelope, Derek, Gina, the storage unit. When I finished, she didn't gasp or call Marissa names. She just said, "Do not confront her tonight." I kind of want to. "I know. Don't. She's been using my storage unit." "Then you need records." "I have records." "You need more." I rubbed my forehead. "Tessa, I'm not trying to build a federal case. You don't need a confession. You need a record." The words settled between us. "She's already calling you unstable in some version of this," Tessa continued. "I can hear it. People who set up paperwork like that are preparing a story. If you go in angry, you become evidence for her." I hated how much sense that made. So what do I do? Screenshots, receipts, access logs, texts, emails, everything. And don't meet her alone if the conversation matters. I looked at the empty space where the chair used to be. "I feel stupid," I said. "You're not stupid. You trusted someone who treated trust like a supply closet." That almost made me laugh, which almost made me feel worse. After we hung up, I sat in the unit for a few more minutes and forced myself to slow down. I took pictures of every missing section. I photographed the access log. I searched my email for receipts, couch deposit, lamps, bedding, kitchenware, storage unit. I saved Venmo transactions with her little casual notes. Couch deposit. Moving stuff. Half of storage, promise. She had never paid half of storage. That night, Marissa texted me around 8. "Can we not be weird? I miss you." I stared at it from my couch, surrounded by the apartment she had been emptying in pieces. I typed, "We should talk tomorrow." She replied, "About what?" I almost wrote, "About Derek. About the storage unit. About the part where you're apparently moving my stuff into a Navy van." Instead, I wrote, "The paperwork. I want to clear it up." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Fine. But please don't come at me like I did something terrible. That was when I knew Tessa was right. Marissa wasn't scared of what she had done. She was annoyed that I might make it inconvenient. The next piece came from a receipt. When I checked the storage unit again the following morning, I found a folded invoice tucked behind a box of winter clothes. It was for grooming supplies, not mine, and on the back someone had written a phone number and a name. Derek, Pause and Go Mobile Grooming. I sat in my car in the storage facility parking lot while rain streaked down the windshield and searched the business. It came up right away. Small mobile dog grooming service. Good reviews. A Navy van in the photos with a cartoon terrier on the side. My thumb hovered over the call button for a full minute. I expected him to be smug. I expected that awkward male tension people write badly in movies. I expected him to know exactly who I was and enjoy the fact that I was finally catching up. He answered on the second ring. Pause and Go, this is Derek. Hi, my name is Mason. I think we need to talk about Marissa. Silence. Then he said, carefully, Mason who? That was not the reaction I expected. I looked through the windshield at a man pushing a cart stacked with moving boxes. Mason from her paperwork. Another pause. Her old roommate? My stomach dropped in a clean, quiet way. I've never been her roommate. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then he said, "Where are you?" We met an hour later at a coffee shop on Division, the kind with fogged windows, tiny tables, and baristas who looked like they knew your secrets but charged you $5 anyway. Derek was already there when I walked in. Tall, beard, baseball cap. He stood when he saw me, then seemed unsure if we were supposed to shake hands. We did, awkwardly. He looked tired. Not guilty. Tired. "I don't know what she told you," I said as we sat down, "but I've been dating Marissa for almost 3 years." His face changed slowly, like someone adjusting to bad lighting. "No," he said. I took out my phone and showed him a picture of us from 2 weeks earlier at a ramen place downtown. Her hand was on my arm. She was smiling at the camera. I had liked that photo until that moment. Derek stared at it. "She told me you were her ex-roommate," he said. "That you two had a messy lease situation and you were helping her move because you owed her money." "I don't owe her money. She said you were controlling about the storage unit." "I paid for the storage unit." He leaned back and looked toward the window. Outside, someone in a yellow raincoat was trying to fold an umbrella against the wind. Derek pulled out his phone. "I should show you something." He opened a text thread. I didn't read over his shoulder until he turned the screen toward me. "Marissa, Mason is being weird about the boxes again. Just ignore him if he reaches out." "Derek, why would he reach out?" "Marissa, he gets emotional. He thinks helping me means he has a say." Another message from 3 days earlier. "Marissa, I'm so close to being out of that chapter. I just need the furniture moved, and then I'm done." Derek looked embarrassed, which somehow made me feel bad for him. "She told me she was single," he said. "She said you two lived together for a while after you split because rent was expensive." I thought it was odd, but he rubbed his hands together. "I moved back here after my divorce. I guess I wanted to believe simple things." I said the first honest thing that came to mind. So both of us were furniture in a story she was staging. He let out a short, humorless laugh. That's one way to put it. We spent the next hour comparing timelines over cooling coffee. He had met her while grooming a dog for one of the tenants at her property. She told him she had ended a long relationship months earlier. She said she was trying to move into a stable place, but had financial loose ends. She showed him photos of furniture and said she had bought most of it herself. She told him my apartment was where she temporarily stored things because I felt guilty about how the living situation ended. My apartment, my furniture, my money, my address. Derek had signed a lease for a 2-bedroom in a building Marissa's company managed. She had helped him with the application. She was supposed to move in unofficially after she finished untangling herself from me. "Why unofficially?" I asked. He looked ashamed now. She said her employer had rules about employees being on leases they handled. She said it was easier to wait. I almost admired the structure of it. Every lie had a cushion. Every question came with a soft landing. I showed him the paperwork that had come to my mailbox. His jaw tightened when he saw his name listed as emergency contact. I didn't know she used your address, he said. I didn't know you existed. We sat with that for a moment. Then Derek said, what do you want to do? That was a strange question. A day earlier, I would have wanted to call her and demand answers until my voice gave out. But looking at Derek across the table, I understood something important. Marissa had built her safety net out of confusion. She needed us separate. Angry. Embarrassed. Easy to dismiss. So I said, I want to correct the record. Derek nodded once. I'm in. The plan was simple because complicated plans are where people like Marissa find room to perform. I texted her that I wanted to meet at her leasing office to clear up the paperwork with someone present, since my name and address had been used. I kept it dry. No accusations. No emotional words. She called immediately. I didn't answer. She texted, why are you making this formal? I replied, because my information is on formal paperwork. She wrote, you're being really scary right now. I took a breath and took a screenshot of it. Then I replied, I'll be there at 10 tomorrow. She didn't respond for 20 minutes. Finally, fine. But don't embarrass me at work. I almost typed back, you handled that part yourself. I didn't. I spent the rest of the night organizing everything into a folder. Receipts, Venmo payments, storage access logs, photos of missing items, texts about moving in together, screenshots from Derek, which he sent after blocking out anything unrelated. The lease packet addressed to Marissa at my apartment. The couch order under my name. Messages where Marissa told me her lease was ending and we were building our place together. Messages where she told Derek I was an unstable ex-roommate. Tessa came over after her shift with takeout from a Thai place and the kind of expression that said she was one bad sentence away from driving across town herself. She sat at my kitchen table and flipped through the folder. This is disturbingly organized, she said. I coordinate construction projects. Betrayal still needs tabs. She looked up at me, and for a second her face softened. How are you actually doing? I picked at the corner of a takeout container. I keep waiting to feel one big thing. Mostly I feel edited. Like she took parts of my life and changed the labels. Tessa nodded. That makes sense. I also keep thinking maybe I missed something obvious. Maybe you did. That doesn't make this your fault. I wanted to believe that. I wasn't fully there yet. The next morning, Portland was doing that steady gray rain that doesn't look dramatic but gets into everything. I parked 2 blocks from the leasing office because the lot was full and sat in my car for 5 minutes with the folder on the passenger seat. Marissa texted at 9:52. Please don't make this ugly. I looked at the message and felt the last little tug of wanting to protect her from consequences. Then I put the phone in my pocket and went inside. The leasing office looked exactly like I remembered from the few times I had visited. Glass doors, polished floors, a fake fiddle leaf fig in the corner, a model kitchen visible through a side room with a bowl of plastic lemons on the counter. The lobby smelled like coffee and new carpet. Marissa was standing near the front desk in a cream sweater, hair pulled back, face composed in that professional way I had seen her use with difficult tenants. Her coworker Nina sat behind the desk, typing. Nina had met me once at a holiday thing and waved before realizing the room felt wrong. Mason, Marissa said, with a tight smile. Can we use the conference room? Sure. We walked into a small glass-walled room with a round table and 6 chairs. I stayed standing until she sat down. She glanced at the folder under my arm. That's a lot, she said. It is. She folded her hands. I need you to understand how uncomfortable this is for me. You showing up at my workplace over a misunderstanding. The front door opened behind her. Through the glass wall, I saw Derek step into the lobby. Marissa saw my eyes move and turned. For the first time since I had known her, she looked genuinely unprepared. Derek didn't come in aggressively. He didn't raise his voice. He walked to the conference room door and looked at me. You good if I join? He asked. I nodded. Marissa stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. What is this? She said. Derek looked at her. A conversation I should have been part of from the beginning. Her face shifted, not into guilt, into calculation. Mason, this is completely inappropriate. I put the folder on the table. My name, phone number, and address are on paperwork from this office. Derek's name is on the same paperwork. I think it's appropriate that everyone understands why. Nina had stopped typing outside. I could see her pretending not to listen. Marissa lowered her voice. You need to leave. No, I said, calmly. That surprised both of us. Derek closed the door behind him and remained standing. Marissa turned to him. Derek, he's twisting this. I told you he gets like this. Derek's expression hardened. You told me he was your ex-roommate. He basically was. I almost laughed. We never lived together. You stayed at my place all the time, she snapped. Weekends are not tenancy. Derek looked at me, then back at her. You told me you were single. Marissa's mouth opened, then closed. She blinked quickly. I was trying to simplify a complicated situation, she said. That's a sentence people use when the truth would be shorter, I said. Her eyes flashed toward me. Do not do this. I opened the folder. My hands were steady, which felt almost strange. I'm not here to debate your feelings. I'm here to correct the record. I laid out the paperwork first. The envelope addressed to her at my apartment. The move-in packet. Derek as emergency contact. Me as previous co-tenant. My phone number listed for verification. Then the storage access log. These are the dates your code entered the unit. These are work days when you told me you were at the office. These are photos of the missing items. Here are the receipts under my name. Marissa stared at the papers like they were rude for existing. Mason bought that chair? Derek asked quietly. I slid the receipt toward him. And the lamps. And the kitchenware. And the bedding. Marissa said, we were moving in together. Couples buy things. Derek turned to her. You told me you bought them after your breakup. I was going to pay him back. I showed the Venmo history. You paid me $30 once for pizza and labeled it survival. So unless that was code for a reading chair, no. Nina made a small sound outside the glass, then covered it with a cough. Marissa shot her a look through the wall. That was when Nina stood and came to the doorway, hesitant. Do you need the property manager? She asked. Marissa said, no. I said yes. Marissa's head turned toward me slowly. Mason, she said, and for the first time there was fear under the polish. A man in a navy blazer came out from the back office. I had seen him once before, but didn't know him. His nameplate said Grant. He looked between us with the tired alertness of someone who had handled too many tenant disputes. What's going on? I kept my voice even. My personal information appears to have been used in leasing paperwork without my consent. My address was used for mail connected to an application I'm not part of. I'd like to make sure the record is corrected. Grant's posture changed. Workplace issue now, not relationship drama. Marissa stepped in quickly. It's a personal situation being blown out of proportion. Grant looked at her. Is company paperwork involved? It's just a draft packet. I lifted the first page. This was mailed to my apartment. Grant took it, read for a moment, and his face gave away almost nothing. That made him seem more serious. Nina, still near the door, looked uncomfortable. Marissa, you did say Mason was the bitter ex who might cause problems. The room went quiet. Marissa's eyes snapped to her. Nina swallowed. I'm not trying to get involved. But you said it. Like, more than once. Derek let out a slow breath. I looked at Marissa. So that part was already in place. She looked at me then, really looked, and the anger faded into something colder. You were never supposed to make this hard, she said. There it was. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just irritation that I had stopped being useful. That sentence did more for me than any confession could have. It closed a door inside me. I gathered the papers, leaving copies for Grant because I had made 3 sets. Tessa had insisted. Grant asked Marissa to step into his office. His voice stayed professional, but there was no softness in it. He told Derek he would review the application file and contact him directly about correcting any inaccurate information. Then he looked at me and said they would document my concern and remove my contact details from anything I had not authorized. Marissa stood frozen for a second. Derek spoke before she could. I'm done, he said. She turned to him. Derek, please. You don't understand how much pressure I've been under. He shook his head. I understand enough. This was complicated. No, he said. Divorce is complicated. Moving is complicated. Lying to 2 people and using one man's money to impress another is not complicated. It's just wrong. Her face tightened like she had been slapped by the plainness of it. Then she turned to me, eyes glossy now. Mason, can we talk outside? For almost 3 years, that would have worked. Not because I was weak, but because I loved her and I liked solving things quietly. I liked giving people a chance to be better in private. But privacy was where she had built the lie. No, I said. Her mouth trembled. That's it. That's it. You're throwing away 3 years? I looked around the conference room. At the fake plant. The printed forms. The man she lied to. The coworker who had heard her version before I even knew there was a version. No, I said. I'm returning them to the person who already did. Grant asked Marissa again to come into his office. This time she went. She didn't slam the door. She didn't fall apart. She walked in stiffly, still trying to look like someone who had control of the room. But she didn't. Derek and I stood in the lobby afterward. Not exactly friends, not enemies either. Just two men who had been handed different scripts for the same bad play. I'm sorry, he said. You didn't know. I should have asked more questions. Me too. He gave a small nod. For what it's worth, I'm not keeping anything that's yours. I'll bring back what she moved to my place. I believed him. That evening, he pulled up outside my building in the Navy grooming van. Gina watched from the bakery window, not hiding it at all. Derek and I carried boxes upstairs without much conversation. Lamps, kitchenware, bedding, the reading chair, wrapped badly in a blanket. When we got the chair back into my apartment, he looked around and said, "She said this place was temporary storage." I looked at the small kitchen, the rain-streaked windows, the bookshelf I had built crooked but kept anyway. "It's my home," I said. He nodded. "Yeah, I see that now." After he left, I sat in the reading chair for the first time. It still had a faint smell of Derek's van, clean soap and wet dog, which was not exactly the future I had pictured. Marissa called 12 times that night. I didn't answer. Her texts came in waves. "You humiliated me. You don't know what you've done. I was scared to tell you the truth. You made me look like a criminal. Please just call me." I took screenshots of everything and then muted her. The next morning, I called my landlord and had the locks changed. I returned the spare building key through the official office and asked them to remove any access permissions associated with her. I canceled the couch delivery and took the fee because losing a deposit was cheaper than letting that couch become another object with a false story attached to it. Marissa showed up once, 3 days later. I knew because Gina called me from downstairs while I was working from home. "She's here," Gina said. "Do you want me to send her up?" I looked at my laptop, at the spreadsheet open in front of me, at the rain making little silver lines down the window. "No," I said. "Please don't." A minute later, my phone buzzed. "I'm downstairs. We need closure." I typed back, "We have it. Do not come to my apartment again." She replied, "After everything, that's all you have to say?" I stared at the message for a while. Then I wrote, "Yes." It felt almost too small, but it was enough. I heard later, indirectly, that Marissa had been suspended pending an internal review. Nina didn't gossip to me, but Derek mentioned it when he dropped off the last missing box. The issue wasn't simply that Marissa had lied in her personal life. It was that she had used company paperwork, tenant systems, and workplace credibility to support those lies. Grant took that seriously. I don't know exactly what happened after the review, and I decided I didn't need to know. Not every consequence has to be watched to count. Derek moved into a different building. He sent me one final text after everything was returned. "For what it's worth, I hope your next chapter is quiet." I wrote back, "Same to you." Then I deleted the thread, not because I disliked him, but because I didn't want to keep a museum of the whole thing. The apartment felt strange for a few weeks. Not empty exactly. More like it had been interrupted mid-sentence. I kept finding small reminders of the future I had almost moved into. A duplicate measuring tape, a stack of paint samples, a list in Marissa's handwriting that said plants, with 2 question marks like greenery, had been our biggest uncertainty. I threw some things away. I kept others. The lamps stayed because I liked them before she turned them into evidence. The reading chair stayed too, though I moved it by the window and stopped thinking of it as hers. Tessa came over the weekend after the confrontation and brought breakfast sandwiches from Gina's bakery. "You look less haunted," she said. Very flattering. I'm a nurse. We chart accurately. We ate at my little table while the bakery downstairs filled the whole apartment with the smell of sourdough and cinnamon. Outside, Portland did what Portland does. Misted the windows, soaked the sidewalks, made every passing car sound softer than it was. Tessa looked around. "You keeping the place?" "Yeah." "Good. I thought about moving. Felt weird being here after all that." "And now?" I looked at the old mailbox key on the counter. The new one sat beside it, clean and sharp. Now it feels like she was the weird part, not the apartment. Tessa smiled a little. "That's progress." Work went back to normal because work always does. Alvarez asked once if I had handled the personal stuff clean. Clean enough, I said. He nodded. Good. Don't let people make you feel guilty for installing locks after they used the door wrong. That was probably the closest Alvarez ever got to poetry. A month later, the couch company refunded more than I expected. I used part of it to buy a smaller couch that actually fit the apartment better. Gina helped me carry the cushions upstairs because she said watching me struggle through the bakery window was bad for business morale. The first night it was set up, I ordered noodles from a food cart, put on a game I barely watched, and sat there listening to rain against the glass. No messages from Marissa. No shared spreadsheet. No careful explanations I had to swallow sideways. Just my apartment. My furniture. My name on my own mail. I still think about how ordinary the beginning of the end was. A broken key. A stuck lock. An envelope in the wrong mailbox. No dramatic reveal. No shouting in a parking lot. No grand confession under streetlights. Just a small metal key snapping under pressure because it had been forced too many times. For a while, I was embarrassed that I hadn't seen everything sooner. Then I realized people who lie well do not always leave obvious signs. Sometimes they leave forms, receipts, access logs, and little inconsistencies they count on you being too polite to question. I'm still calm by nature. I still prefer a quiet conversation over a scene. But I don't confuse calm with being available for someone else's version of reality anymore. Marissa wanted a clean break. She planned to walk out carrying my things, my money, my credibility, and a story where I was the problem. In the end, she did get a clean break. She left with nothing that belonged to me. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.